So before I came here, there was a lengthy debate in Parliament on the debt ceiling, the increase in the ability to borrow for Guyana's development. And there were many schools of thought on it. But I gave my contribution to that, and the bill was moved by the Minister of Finance, and then after the debate, we went to a vote, and obviously that motion was passed so that we can increase our borrowing level so that we can accommodate the kind of transformational projects that we want to have in Guyana. We want to see implemented in the country so that people can benefit. So it was a very lengthy debate, and I can say for my part that my contribution was, you don't have to amass cash then go look to buy an asset. Debt is not a bad word. Borrowing is not a bad word. The financial system, the global financial system, the local financial system, it's grounded in two things: equity and debt. For the private sector, debt, the interest on debt is a tax benefit. For governments, if you don't have the cash, you bring in the cash through either bilateral loans or multilateral loans through international institutions. You bring in those monies to go into projects, but projects that bring back some kind of capital formation or social formation. So I gave my contribution to that debate, but you also have to play a part too, because a lot of people, they try to say, you end up in a debt crisis, they amplify the situation more than it is. But just for information's sake, right now Guyana, 7 cents on every dollar is used to service debt. 7 cents. Not like other countries. When we took government in 1992, you had to find $1.53 to serve every $1 of income. It means that you have to borrow to service your debt. So we had that debate. And just for information too, right now our debt burden, which is calculated by your debt over your GDP, that is about 25%. It's the lowest in this hemisphere. So we are not nowhere near any crisis level, as persons would want to put it. We are in a sound place, and the increase in the debt levels is to deal with the very transformative projects that we are speaking about tonight. How do you accommodate them? Right? Every country in the world have debt. The US have over $20 trillion in debt. My research showed me that in 2021, China's debt was $5.8 trillion. And every other country in the world have some level of debt. Some are at manageable levels, some are lower, and there are those that are higher. But how you manage it is a different. Mathematicians, there are high-level financial engineers, there are university professors that came up with models how to manage debt, how to deal with debt portfolio. Black-Scholes model, those who did finance will tell you that enables you to value equity and debt too. You have portfolio theory that tells you how to manage your entire portfolio. So debt is being part of the foundation of the financial system. So today, we can't operate like we're in a vortex cut off from the rest of the world. We are part of the world. We are within, our sphere, but we also have to make sure that we develop our country for our kids and our grandkids. So Mr. Ali mentioned a couple of things in his speech, and I'll come to them a little later. I don't intend to keep you much longer, but I made some notes. I didn't really write a speech, but I made some notes. So I just would like to, let you know what we're doing in government. And at least shed some light and some details on some of the projects that we are doing. But not just with you know, the physical infrastructure that you see here, but other forms of infrastructure. So tonight again, there are two other bills in Parliament that's being debated. Right now one is being debated, and we're looking at it. It's the actually electronic communications bill. It's actually being debated right now. That will deal with the modernization and some aspect of e-commerce, but for government services to make it much easier, because most of it will end up having to go in on a platform that is IT based. Then there's a data protection bill as well that is. You need to let me know what's going on, right? Then there's the data protection bill that's going to debate a little later tonight. So in the IT infrastructure, and we're talking about the transformative projects, in the IT infrastructure, what we're doing in government is to make sure that we transition with the times. Recently, some of you would have seen that, or saw, some of you would have, we had a contract for an ID card. It's about 35 million, I think, somewhere around there, but it's an ID card. It's not the one that GCOM has, but the ID card will be is IKO certified. The ID card is like a first world ID card. Built into that ID card have a chip that have a lot of information about a person. You know, your biometrics, everything will be in that. It can be used to travel. It can be used to do business in Guyana. With that ID card, it can help you so that the banks can have their credit card system and their vetting system for the identity of person be done easily. So that card is in the UAE and about 42 other countries. The company that did the card, and we are putting it together. That's for the IT infrastructure. It forms the bedrock of future development. So when you get the base information, you can build on that. And that is where you have to go. You know, when we come into Guyana, we find that when you travel, you come here and fill out forms and so. But when you go to other countries, you don't have to do those things, because countries have invested long ago in the IT backbone so that they can enable, when you swipe your passport, all your information come, they know who is landing in the country before they actually touch down. And the forms are everything is on your phone, and you access that quickly, you fill out your form and you're gone through. So it removes the paper-based operations. So with the IT infrastructure in the government side, that is something that our government is looking and pursuing, but it also is geared to make sure that government services, which on a daily basis interfaces with the population, is easier, faster, and is keeping with what persons are accustomed to when they travel abroad to countries that are more developed. We're also, as you can see, a number of laws that are passed in Guyana is really to look at the entire legal framework of the country to make sure that our laws are updated. Actually today in Parliament we tabled for the first time the Petroleum Commission that bill. It was tabled today. As you know, we passed the local content legislation. We continue to pass legislation. We had in the health sector a number of legislation passed, so a lot of them we have in Parliament that are going through to modernize the legislative framework that we have, to bring it in line. We had only recently, we had, tonight also we had the real estate bill in the House, but the last sitting we also voted and passed a single window bill. So that single window bill, I remember in the private sector, time immemorial, that folks would have in their development from the Manufacturers Association, the Chamber of Commerce, the Private Sector Commission, you name it. Everybody were talking about single window. But single window is something that is not easily done. You have to bring a whole host of legislation and deal with those legislation and bring them into one place and have one legislation and one secretariat to deal with all forms of permitting. As you know, if you're building a shore base, or if you're building a warfare facility, or if you're putting in some fuel tanks, the requirements for permits is far, far more than if you just want to build a house. And if you're building a house in the city, you have a whole host of permits that you have to get. If you're building a warehouse to store chemical or radioactive items, you have to get a whole host of permits for those. You got to go from agency to agency, and if one agency lost its stuff and it doesn't get sent to the other, objection don't go to the other agency, you have to reapply, you have to wait till the board meeting happens, and it takes time to get permits to the final investor who's building whatever he wants to build, if it's a hotel, if it's a apartment buildings, if it's shore bases, all those things. It normally be a cumbersome thing. It actually now will be in one single window where permits are processed. So in terms of the soft infrastructure that will enable an easier way to do business, all those things have been looked at, and we have actually passed legislation to deal with them. I want to talk a little too about the hard infrastructure that Mr. Ali spoke about in terms of in the agricultural lands. Food security is something that our government, the president, has been pushing globally. Food security, climate services, and energy are three things that Guyana is leading globally with. And we have the programs in Guyana to support that leadership, or the leadership position that we take. With respect to food and agriculture, there are a number of roads, farm to market roads. We get a lot of criticism that you can't do road. But if you don't build a road to the farmlands, the food can't come out. So you have to build the roads into the farmlands so the food can come out. Because if it can't come out, it will left in the farmlands and rotten down, and the farmer loses too. So in the agriculture sector, we built a lot of farm to market roads and a lot of drainage capabilities. We're actually looking at the whole, in terms of region 3, region 5 and 6, to look at wider drainage facilities to make sure that the land is drained, because when we get a little rain, the place is flooded. So you have the Hope Canal that normally brings down the water from the backlands. Now a lot of the backlands, some of the lands that we have, are being converted to other use. So where's the water going to be stored? You have to come out. So you have to make sure that you have these major canals and you dredge them so that again the drawdown can be done quickly. In Georgetown, any little rainfall, the place is flooded, because the canals that they have there are designed to maybe 2.5 inches of rainfall alone in every 24 hours, maybe 3 inches. But then you get double that amount of rainfall in a single 24 hours. So the water is in the streets. And you have about 55 different canals. I remember checking them because we did a survey. And you have about another 541 small secondary drainage in the city. But most of them are blocked up, Orton drains and so. And then people build their stuff and so on. So flooding is a major thing, and we definitely looking into all of those things to make sure that, at least if the rainfall, you have the water, when the tide changes, you get a quick drawdown. At least you got to make sure that is a start to make sure you get the drawdown quickly. But when it stays there for 2-3 days, it disturbs everything, including movement, including commerce. So in that sector, we're putting in a lot of infrastructure. But Mr. Ali mentioned something, and I will keep referring back to his speech about energy and the grid. And this is something I've been looking at as part of my responsibility in government in the office of the Prime Minister, with the energy sector, with GPL and the grid and so. So for those who don't know, GPL have about 180 megawatts of installed capacity, meaning engines that would work, actually can work. But some of them you have to bring them down and change overhaul them and change out the top overhaul and the bottom overhaul, depends on the running hours. But because of the speed of how the country is developing, all of the warehouses that are being built, all of the factories that are adding, the new set of housing schemes that are going up, all the new requirements for all of the different buildings that we're putting up, it put more demand on the system. So maybe last week or so is the highest we have ever seen in terms of demand, about 156 megawatts. So when you don't have the generation capacity and the demand is there, any least thing you find that, a system shut down, the grid end up in a problem. Because it's like you have a small generator this size and you want to run 3 fridge on it, 2 microwave, water heater, plug in 6 cell phone, it's going to buckle because it just can't generate the amount to deal with what you're trying to power. Same thing with the grid. So you have, that amount of engines put together, various parts, and the problem is that you don't have enough generating capacity because the country is growing fast. Say we close out at 60% growth in GDP. This year, at least the government put forward 25%, but the IMF said they're going to reach somewhere around 39% growth in GDP. So the country is growing, and all of the activities require power. So what are we doing about that? So as everybody know, if you don't know, mean that you weren't reading at all, but we are building a 300 megawatts plant at Wales. That is already been, the site is already been developed. The access, the material offload facility, the road into Wales is being constructed, and I think that's already finished too. The pipeline from offshore is coming in. The contracts are already awarded for the onshore bit from Crane to take it to Wales. So the different parts of the project is already awarded. The building out of the turbines, we call them turbines, they're not engines that uses injectors. So injectors, they work and they spit the fuel and you get combustion and you get power. But the turbines are different technology. It's like a wall on multiple spinning gears. And they work 100 times faster than an injector can spit fuel. So you can tell the speed of how the turbine works. So that is the technology that is going to be at the Wales plant, and to generate 300 megawatts, double the amount that GPL has right now, one single plant. And that will have to be dispatched through 230, this is with the transmission piece now, about 230,000 volts transmission line. That will come from Wales, it will go to Vridenhoek, to the power station, and then it will come to the back of Garden of Eden and come to the back of Eccles a little there. That's where the control center will be. So you're bringing the energy, you're bringing the power, taking it to Vridenhoek, where they have the plant there, and taking it to Eccles, where they have a control center. From that control center, it will be broken down into 69,000 volts and 13,800 volts and dispatched across the country. So that transmission and distribution contract has already been awarded to. So most parts of the project has already been awarded and works have commenced, and we just have to make sure we manage it to make sure that the timeline is delivered. So right now GPL charges about 24 cents per kilowatt hour. Right now US cents per kilowatt hour for commercial, for residential. Commercial is a little more because you have to put in your demand charges. So our government says we're going to cut electricity by half, so that is where we're working feverishly. As you can tell, there's multiple moving parts of this project. It's a very large project, and it has to be managed. So when persons think that when they get blackout, it's simply a turn 2 wire or you put in 2 engines to fix it, or so, it's not a simple fix. It's a massive, complicated, very expensive fix. And that is what the government has embarked on since we came in. Right? So that is the 300 megawatts. There is another 33 megawatts that will go into, it will come in the form of solar farms. It will be in Essequibo, in Lindenside, and in Berbice. And that is funded through monies that was earned by Guyana through the GRIF funds, which is the agreement that we had with Norway. That money was sitting there a while. The IDB agreed that we could put it, we made a proposal that we can put it in renewable energy and tie it into the grid. So 33 megawatts will be added in addition to the 300 into the grid. And working in the sector, I learned a few things. It's like when you're going on a highway, and the car moves in a particular speed, and you have to join into the highway. There's a merge. You have to merge with a particular speed too. If you don't, you'll end up in an accident, or you'll end up causing problems. The same thing with the current. So if the grid is the grid is a particular size in terms of the power on the grid, you have to build these variable speed, what you call it, is some variable speed components to make sure that the solar energy is merged into the grid easily and it don't get lost when it's merged into the grid. So those substations have to be built and tied into the solar panel farms to bring the power into the grid. Also want to talk about the other aspect of how we do energy and energy infrastructure, which is the hydro, is something that we continue to look at and continue to pursue. The hydro that is at Amelia, which is about another 165 megawatts. You know, I met the Qatari Minister of Energy, and he said to me, based on their experience, he said, every time you build something, thinking that you measure the size of demand and capacity, he said, must try and double it. The reason being is that you try to measure all the variables that can give you demand, and the minute you put in something, it's eaten up by a number of other things that you didn't calculate on. And in an oil and gas nation, and they are heavily a gas producer, they saw that over the life of their development. So if we think 300 megawatts is plenty, when other development come on board and massive developments that are spread out in the different regions, more demand will be on the system. You might very well have to look back at those things. I want to touch a little on the aviation infrastructure. As you know, the Chetty Jagan International Airport continued to see record numbers of incoming passengers, especially when you have Cricket Carnival. Last year, Cricket Carnival saw a single 1 month, incoming traffic like we've never seen before, somewhere around 31,000 persons in a single month. So we finished the airport that were contracted many, many years ago. We finally finished it out. And as you know, that cargo operation is something the manufacturers and so they look forward to get their products out. So there are multiple amount of investors that are looking to deal with cargo operations, and they're in consort with the CGIA management to see how that can be facilitated, to make sure that the airport, serves the purpose of not just the travelers in, passenger mode, but cargo as well. Ogle as well have a development plan that they have presented to government and was approved for the development of that airport too, because that can also serve some of the regional neighbors with passenger traffic as well as cargo too. So on the aviation sector, we continue to make sure that we maintain our status with ICAO and to make sure we build on that, because no sense you have a wonderful regime, good tax incentive, investment opportunity, and nobody can get here. So you have to make sure that you build out the facility, but also make sure that you have more airlines coming too, because cost of travel too is also a hindrance to people. Try booking a flight from Canada to come, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Especially during the August months. It's very, very expensive. So on infrastructure too, we continue to do a lot in the education sector with schools, primary schools, nursery schools, secondary schools. So we continue to do that. But what we also did is, through the President's leadership, we work with our friends in Dubai. And they have put together a program where our children can learn programming at an early age. And we put that out. The numbers are climbing, but it is really designed as the first of its kind in this region, where you're trying to get your children to be techies at an early age. So they can learn programming, they can learn website design, and all of that can be facilitated on an online program for free. The people are doing it for free for Guyanese. And we have a limit of about 100, no, it's not actually a limit. We started out by saying we're gonna have a pool of about 150,000 Guyanese that can go onto the program and learn programming, website building, and a whole set of other areas that they can learn. All you have to do is register as a child. You have 14 years and up, and you can do something. You can learn something. It's not something that was afforded to us when we were children, Nancy, can you pass some water for me, please? Yeah. Yeah, so those are the things that our government is pushing. I mean, nowhere else in the Caribbean, Latin America have that program because we check. And our children can benefit from that. In the health sector, I'm happy to, a very informative presentation, Dr. Naimatali. But in the health sector, our government, as you heard the Vice President only, I think today or last week on this press conference, spoke about 12 new hospitals. At Ogle, we already are doing the one through VAMID. That one is a pediatric hospital. It's already contracted to start to build. And we have a lot more, 12 hospitals we're going to build throughout the country. Sorry. So we are looking at the health sector too. It's not just, it's not like a silo strategy. It's all of the different areas in the country that needs development we are looking at. Amsi, you might need to give me that. Sorry. Now, everybody aware that the oil and gas sector is the talk of the day. Everybody wants to get part of it. They're seeing the news, you're hearing all kind of fancy language. But the sector right now has 2 FPSOs and a third one just came, I think, producing about 300 and maybe 360,000 barrels. Sorry, please forgive me. So we are producing only that, 2 FPSOs, and you see the fight in the country. Just imagine when we're producing 1 million barrels per day, and the revenues are coming. What will we do? And that's a question every one of us have to ask ourselves. In the private sector, I heard Mr. Ali spoke about we should buy Guyanese and give the Guyanese businesses first preference. And I agree with you. We have fought for that all our lives. But there are also some of our people right here that undermine that. There are our private sector colleagues that undermine that very thing that we fight for to make sure Guyanese products and Guyanese businesses are given the first opportunity. Our government passed the local content legislation for some of the sectors, for the services, at least 40 areas, to give Guyanese that first push. So that is what we do. In the sector, you're seeing a lot of private sector driven investment, and that is a good sign because people are putting their own money into projects because they know they're getting the return. People are building shore bases. People are building warehouses. People are building lay-down yards. People are building condominiums. They're building townhouses. They're partnering with others to do fabrication, vessel services, pipe coating, you name it, they're doing it. Guyanese, that is a good thing. We're a resilient bunch. We're like grass. You stumble on us, you dig us out, you burn us down, but we grow back quickly. We're indestructible, and that is the nature of Guyanese people. So that is why our people make sure that they fight for the opportunities. Although there are a number of challenges, we fight for it. Now you have a law that helps you to get by. And small businesses are no longer small. They're growing to medium-sized businesses and then to large businesses. Simply because they are partnering with the right partners and they're developing their companies. And we are providing the environment for that. That is that is why we passed the local content legislation. So our people in the private sector have to be true to that too, and not do the rent-a-citizen kind of arrangement that we hear a lot of reports about. Because it hurts the local content fight. It hurts what we're doing here as a private sector. So where are the opportunities though in some of those things that I spoke of? We'll come to them just now. In the housing sector, only a few months ago, the Ministry of Housing signed about $55+ billion, maybe it's $56 billion in contracts for development of housing schemes across the country. Region 3 Region 4, some in Region 6, and so on. That is development of the housing sector. So just imagine the amount of concrete blocks you need. Just imagine the amount of excavator operators, bulldozer operators you need. Just imagine the earthworks. Just think about it. The earthworks alone is the biggest cost in those things, because the sand and so that you have to put to build up the land. But that is where the opportunity is. Sandpit owners, people with trucks, people who sell parts for the trucks, everybody makes money. And that is just in the housing sector. We give about 24,000 plus house lots in the 3 years we're in government. The Minister of Housing just reported that to Parliament this morning. And that is what's happening. All the zinc sheets, all of the wood, the rafters, you name it, the paint, the electrical fittings, the PVC, you name it. Everybody is making money because we have to buy it from somewhere. The contractors have to get it from somewhere. And that is where the opportunity is. And most business persons that I've known, they become successful when they see where the curve is going, where the money is going to spend, where the investment is going, and they go and prepare themselves for that investment. They don't wait until, it's upon you then to go try to prepare for it. See, in the oil and gas sector, the opportunities are never ending. Please don't sit and wait for somebody to come and give it to you. You have to fight for it. You have to scratch, dig, bite, bark, do whatever you have to do. You have to go after it. And the successful persons, that is what they do. They fight for it. It doesn't come easy. Nobody will come and put it in your lap. They're not going to give you a contract like that. You have to prepare yourself. In another couple of years, they might buy, maybe by 2030 or so, they would have about 7 FPSOs. Those are floating cities, metal. They have about 40 PSVs, which is platform supply vessels that going back and forth. They're taking mud, they're taking casings to weld, to drill with. They're taking supplies, chemicals, and so to those. You have the production chemicals and you have the drilling chemicals. All of those things, where the chemicals come from, who transport them, where's the mud coming from? The mud they come from 2 places in the world, out of Morocco and out of India, in Mongolia. The mud is used when you do the drill bits, it cools the drill bits when you're drilling. 2 companies, Baker Hughes and Schlumberger does those mud. But the mud, you have to grind it. It's called barite. They have barite grinding facility in Midland states in the US. Why you can't have it in Guyana? Pipe coating facilities. It means the pipes used to come from Sumitomo in Japan. Then they have to go to the US. They used to coat them and bring them to Guyana. Now it's coming from Brazil. It goes to Mexico and then makes its way back to Guyana. Why can't you do that here? And there's pumps. On those rigs, they have 3 phases. They separate the water from the oil and other impurities, to separate it in phases. Every pump, every valve on those things have to be calibrated and tested. Who does that? Those are where the opportunities are. But we sit and we don't check the sector, we don't read. So how are you gonna get the opportunity? And that's a question every business person should ask. Lastly, public works. So public works, our ministry, we get the lion's share of the capital budget that normally comes every year. This year, 2023, we had about 40% of that budget, 149.5 billion Guyanese dollars. And another 32 billion on the supplementary that went today to Parliament. We have built, since we came into government, about 2,500 community roads. And we are doing all of the big projects in the country to expand highways and so on, make new ones. You know about all of them. You know about New Amsterdam to Molson Creek, 86 kilometers. We're going to widen that road. We have already contracted 99 structures to 2 contractors to widen the bridges to accommodate the 4-lane. That is in Region 6. We built about 710 roads there already. We're going to build another 300 roads, the Vice President announced. When he was there Saturday, I was with him. What that gives, what's the opportunity there? Concrete, batching plants, stone, cement, sand, steel, BRC. Those are ways used to make the roads. Somebody got to supply. On the East Coast, we're going to be building another 300 roads plus 2. We built a lot there. Same thing, concrete roads. This is where all the small businesses, Mr. Ali, that you spoke about, have a fighting chance. Because as you see, our government has been going into communities and giving the community people to build the roads. Once they have a business, they have the capability, and some of them don't have track record, but they prove themselves. Because they learn and they hire technical people to build it for them. Look right here in Albaistong where we went. There's people from Albaistong building connecting streets. People from right there. Same thing for Sophia, same thing for Victory Valley and Linden, same thing for Denham Still, same thing for Pakuri. People in the community we go, we try to make sure who are those in the community that can build, and they get the opportunity to build in their community. And that is something the President himself, sometimes when he goes out, he does. So roads, community roads is a big problem throughout the country. Some of these schemes was in a terrible state. We built a lot of them. Some people who never see roads built in 2 decades, they've seen their roads being built. Because it's left there, unattended. On the highway side, so the transformation is not just on the main highways where you see the big 4-lane that is going on, it's in the communities too. The transformation is in the communities. If you go into Tushin, where I come from, and Zilla, Tushin have 103 roads. Zilla have 87 roads. About 92%, 93% of them finish in 3 years. We have some more to do. Parfait Harmony, the big scheme, you have farm, Stelling, all of those in Borbis areas, all of the schemes, we go into them, communities by communities, we go into them and we build them up. Right from Sheriff Street going up, they have a 4-lane that we built there, our government has built there. Now we are expanding the railway straight up to Mahika with that 4-lane too. Orange Nassau. It's already started. Contract is already been there. Thanks to the UK High Commissioner, we are on a tripartite agreement in terms of the funding. We have the road 121 kilometers from mile 0 to Mabura Hill. It's been contracted with the Brazilian companies to build. There is another 330 kilometers from that point to Letem that we have to further build. But what we have done is all of the bridges from Letem straight up to Linden, all of the bridges were contracted out and they are being built, 45 of them, and they're built to AASHTO standards. So those have been built too. So the connectivity, we are at an advanced stage to connect Guyana to Suriname with that bridge. Only recently, we changed span 9 on the Demerara Harbour Bridge. You all see the disruption that happened. Commerce can't happen. It affects sales for companies on this one side because over that side I have 101,000 registered voters alone in Region 3. That's just the registered voters. I'm talking about the others who live in there, they ain't registered here. And those is normally come over to Region 4. Because business from Region 4 is normally, all trucks go over there to serve those people. It couldn't happen. We're building a bridge, 261 million US. And that bridge is going to be a good 4-lane bridge, 2.65 kilometers long. And that is the kind of transformation the country is seeing. When you go over to the west side, we're connecting Schoonard to Crane with a 4-lane. By the end of the year, that should finish too. That is an advanced stage too. The President has announced that for sales to Puerto Rico 4-lane, that is another about 32, 33 kilometers with 3 cutoffs. on that highway to take you into the main communities at Hague, at Virgin and Perica, 3 cutoffs. That is another big project that will open up so many lands in Region 3. As you know, a shore base is going there. It's advanced. I've been on the shore base. Very advanced. And what once used to be a trench that I used to catch fish and swim in as a boy is now an access way to a major shore base in Hoop. All the lands there now, you can't go by. If you go to Crane to look for land, you can't find. And if you do find, they want an arm and a leg. So these are just some of the things that we do. There are many more. I could stay all night and talk to you. We're building out the stellings across the country. We're doing a whole host of things. Everywhere you go, something is being done to build the country out. And that is what the government has been doing. So the transformation takes 2 forms, the soft one and the hard one. So there's one thing I want to talk about before I leave the stage. You know, we've been building a lot of these safe spaces through the First Lady office. Built one in Skellam. It's nice. One in New Amsterdam. Very nice. We just finished out the Independence Boulevard, Pontrench Dam. Very nice. We have one at La Jalousie, and we're building some others, and then Kingston Seawall. But when we build these things, sometimes when you go back, persons break them up and so, you know, pull down the lights and so. But, you know, if you build in the country, you know, you gotta care it. You gotta care what you're building it. Because, you know, you got other people, children have to use it too, you know, other families have to use it. So, whilst we're building, you know, you have these, you know, these ailments that come along with it. Sometimes you build a road, a good road in a community, and people move with some big truck to build another road and they back and break up the one you just built. And these things happen when you're a country that is under construction. You know, these things do happen. You know, somebody complained to me about a village right up the road here, that the backlands have been developed, so all the roads in the front land is taking a bombardment with the trucks, because they have over 1,000+ trucks more running the area. And those are the ailments that we gotta, you know, that we have to bear with now. But the country is the fastest growing economy in the world. We in this room are witnessing that. We can never said that before. Since the Republic, we couldn't say that. We now can say that. We are part of it. We should make sure that we position ourselves to benefit from that growth in whatever business we're in. If you're not in the business, you can go into the business. And that, I think that will be a good thing for Guyanese people, to benefit from their own resource. It's something that I fought for when I was the president of the chamber many moons ago, for local content. I mean, when I was fighting for that, some people didn't even know what it was. Me and Ramesh Duku and them boys get it out every day for that. But at the end of the day, everybody's seeing the value that can be derived from it. And I believe that, I think Guyanese are united when it comes to that, in terms of, you know, that they have to get a piece of the pie, and they're fighting for it, rightly so. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's late. I want to thank the executives of the GMSA, and I want to thank Mr. Ali and the team for the good job they've been doing. I heard that he spoke about a lot of the things that he would like to see and get done in terms of the Small Business Bureau and the industrial parks and so on, and having small business go out to these exhibitions and so. You know, government remain an open door. Every minister of this government have an open door. You just have to walk in. You know, the small business grant that you spoke about, I know that earlier on the year we had about $1.8 billion in grant fund for the Small Business Bureau, but then we are also currently dealing with SLED grants too. We were up only Saturday in Region 6 dealing with SLED grant, the day before in Region 5. So a number of that form seed money for small businesses too, to start something. On the procurement issue, Mr. Ali, you know, the procurement laws are clear. You know, persons can bid for stuff. But you have to get, some basic housekeeping things as a company too. You gotta get your NIS, your GRA, and your registration and whatnot. You gotta get some basic stuff. And a lot of small businesses are getting business, but you can, sometimes the wrong thing to do is to inject preference into it, because then you'll have a problem, because you can be accused when you have preference of one, one against the other. But the procurement is open. I think a lot of small businesses are benefiting from it. More can benefit, but small business shouldn't want to be small all the time. If you start out small, you be there for a little while, but you got to grow to that. You can't, want to stay in one season all the time. So access to finance continue to be something that, you continue to work with the banks on. I know the private sector, the Chamber of Commerce, manufacturers, they talk to the banks a lot to deal with the collateral issue that always is the issue with a small business, because family members no longer want to lend you money anymore to start your business. You got to go to a bank. If you go to a bank, they want to see a collateral. And that sometimes is the problem, when you don't have the collateral, but you have a good idea, and you have a good spirit, and you have a good drive. So we continue to work with that. So I believe that more and more persons, when they see others succeeding, they get a Me Too attitude. Because if somebody neighbor is doing something, they want to get into it. Somebody friend is doing something, they want to get into it. So the Me Too attitude sometimes rubs off, and people, get a little more involved and get a little more pushy too. That is what competition does. And lastly, I just would like to say thank you to all of the members here to continue to support the Manufacturers Association. I heard that the association is now 360 members, which is good. I think the GCCI is about 1,000 plus and counting. It means to say that more businesses are coming on board in a structured way, which is a good thing. But supporting the GMSA in these events, go a long way. I know the work of the GMSA. I used to be on one of the committees when I was in private sector, working with Mr. Duka, Mr. Ali, and so on. So the organization, the good advocacy, they help to put you on the right track. So I would like to just congratulate the president, somebody who I've known for like 17, 18 years now, maybe more. Known to be a good guy, good leadership skills, and an action man. So I know that is the GMSA is benefiting from that, Ms. Nali. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for staying so late to hear me talk about government business. But there's a lot of opportunity, and I really, really would implore everybody to go after those opportunities. Thank you very much.